I've worked here since September 2002. So I've seen a lot of applications in my time. A major part of my role is managing the process for CStat and GradStat applicants. So that's right from processing the applications, putting them through committee, collecting all the relevant information that we need, and letting people know the outcome. So, or I just click in it. Okay. So this has already been touched upon by the other speakers, and I've actually lifted this directly from the RSS website. So why would someone want to apply for chartered status? Well, we've already heard that statistics is a job for skilled professionals, and by applying for chartered status, it's essentially a peer review process, and it's recognition by your peers that you have a level of education, experience, competence, and ethical commitment, a level that labels you as a professional. It provides a measure of assurance to employers, contractors, collaborators, clients, a mark of accomplishment to wider society, and perhaps not mentioned is a valuable addition to your CV in what's quite a competitive job market. An employer might receive many applications for a job. You might be the only person who's got charter status, so it does set you apart from everybody else. In terms of what's required, for CStat you need a suitable degree, so that can be either a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. As has been mentioned before, some degrees are accredited, so that means that the society has looked in detail at the content of that programme, and any graduate from that programme will meet the requirements in terms of the academic side. Sometimes the accreditation is conditional, so you need to have taken a certain number of modules in statistics in your final year, for example. But we do look at non-accredited degrees on an individual basis, and there are quite a few qualifications that we routinely accept, so we've seen them many times before. An example would be Sheffield Hallam University used to offer an MSc in applied statistics, and although it wasn't accredited, we accepted it routinely because we'd seen it many times before, and it was clearly a qualification that met the requirements. And for CStat, in addition to the qualification, you need 5 years of professional experience in using and applying statistics, with evidence of continuing professional development. GradStat is based on qualifications, just qualifications, and the academic requirements are the same as for CStat. I've put on here that we are actually going to be introducing a new route to CStat next year, what we're going to be calling the competence route, and that's for people whose qualifications are non-standard. So you might have come into statistics from a completely different background or a related background, so something like epidemiology or demography or something like that. So you wouldn't necessarily meet the standard academic requirements, but if you're able to demonstrate that you've gained the necessary skills and knowledge in statistics in other ways in your working life, the idea is that the competence route will allow you to demonstrate that and gain CStat by that route. And an additional thing that applicants will need to do is to complete a competence report and demonstrate that they meet certain competencies, and we'll put more information about that on the website in due course. As has been mentioned, if you're applying for CStat, you can also apply for Chartered Scientist status at the same time. It's and the two applications will be processed alongside one another. And that involves, again, providing a bit more information about your competence in certain areas, perhaps more sort of broadly within science. So how to apply? Well, about 3 or 4 years ago, we switched to a web-based system. It used to be paper-based, and I used to have to copy every application 12 times until the photocopier broke. But we've now moved over to a paperless system, the website is there, so you need to sign up for an account, and there's a form to fill in, and you need to upload various pieces of information and documentation. So if you're applying for CStat, it's quite helpful if you gather all this sort of information together before you start. It will make your life a lot easier. So we need some electronic versions of your certificates and transcripts. If you haven't got a certificate, then an award letter will be fine. Just something from the university that says what your degree is, when it was awarded, and what degree class you gained. The application form asks you to give details of your different sort of periods of experience, including dates. So it's quite helpful if you've got a CV. Most people keep a CV, so have that in front of you, and then you've got the dates. You can do some copying and pasting if that helps, job titles and things like that. The other thing you need to do is to upload a summary of your CPD activities for the prior 2 years. So we do have a template, a Word document template. There is also, if you're already a grad stat, you can access an online CPD recording system that the Society offers. You can access that through the members enclosure. And if you need any help with that, then let me know. And contact details for at least 2 referees. So we've already talked about referees, and they need to cover at least the 5 years in question. So depending on your career path, if you've held more than 2 roles in the last 5 years, you might want to nominate more than 2 referees. Some people nominate sort of 4 or 5 if they've moved around a lot. And in terms of sort of suitable people, if they're a chartered statistician, that's ideal. If they're a statistician, that's helpful. If they're not, then it just needs to be somebody who can comment in detail on your experience and has knowledge of what you're doing in terms of your statistical role. If you have any worries about that, then do contact the office here at the RSS, and we're happy to advise you. And if you're applying for grad stat, because it's qualifications only, you just need electronic versions of your academic documents. So a question: the most common reason for a CStat application to be unsuccessful at the first attempt. Any ideas? CPD summary. Now, we've talked a lot about CPD summaries. So I'm going to give you my top tips for putting together a good CPD summary. Keep records of your activities. It can be in any form you like. So you might want to use your Outlook diary, for example, just to keep a note of what you've done at particular times, meetings you've been to, courses you've been on, and then at least that way you haven't got to think back over the last 2 years and try and remember everything that you've done. Do it on a continuous basis. If you spend 10-15 minutes once a week just making a note perhaps of what you've been doing during that week, it may not have been anything that particular week, but it just helps you when the time comes to put together your summary. Some people like to use the Word template that we can provide. You can download that from the website. Some people like to use a spreadsheet. Some people use the online system, but if it's, just make sure it's in a format where you can extract the information easily and put it into a report that's sort of clear and makes sense. Oh, how do I go down? That was clever. There we are. Describe what you did and how. So the descriptions don't need necessarily to be too detailed, and as we've mentioned, if you don't have to mention anything sensitive or confidential, but sometimes the descriptions we get are very brief. So somebody might say reviewed journal articles or something like that, and it's kind of, well, what journal? What sort of articles? What form did the review take? Try and sort of give us a little bit of background about it. There's a difference between learning hours and actual hours, as has already been touched upon. So we're looking for 60 learning hours a year with activities in 3 different categories. So many people count their entire working hours as CPD. And I've seen summaries with thousands of hours of CPD, and that just can't be right, it can't be correct. So you should just count time spent on developmental activities, and that's not necessarily the same as the time spent doing your day-to-day job. Matt's already given quite a good example, actually, of if you're running a course for the first time as an academic, then that's probably going to count for more CPD than the sort of 10th, 15th time you've run it. The activities need to be spread across 3 of the categories. And some activities will possibly fall into more than one category. So if you've been on a training seminar at work, for example, you could class that as work-based learning, or it could be formal or educational. So it's a case, I guess, of looking at your summary, and if you're a bit short in one area, you could sort of shift things around a little bit. And non-statistical CPD still needs to focus on your ability to function as a professional statistician or a manager of statisticians. And the final tip is the reflection on benefits gained. This is probably the most important part of the summary. And a common mistake is for people to just describe the activity again, but just in a bit more detail. So think about what you gained from the activity. How has it helped you in your work? How has it helped others who are your clients, customers or students? And for some activities, the benefits may be limited, but that's fine. So that's all part of the reflection process. Some things are going to be more beneficial to you than others. And this does sort of allow you to plan for the future. If something didn't go quite so well, how can you address that in the future? So I've given you an example. Hopefully that's a reasonable example. So this is taken from the template, the Word template. So you've got your category, description, the start date and end date, the number of learning hours, and the outcome, benefit to practice. So I've used this meeting as an example. And it's a case of getting into the habit of allocating, learning hours as you go along, and then hopefully you'll end up with a good summary, which reflects all of the great things you've been doing over the last sort of 2 years. Hell, I don't use this very often. So what help does the RSS offer to applicants? So here in the membership team, we actually really welcome people getting in touch with us and asking questions about the process, about the information they need to submit, anything at all that you can't, you're not sure about. Drop us an email, give us a call, and we're really happy to help. We want to help you through the process. We want you to be successful at the end of it, because we appreciate there is quite a lot of effort that goes into putting all the information together and filling in the form and everything else. So we really do want you to get through it and have a positive outcome. So if you're already a grad stat, we do actually offer a mentoring scheme, and that's where we match you up with an existing CStat. And I mean the relationship sort of varies really, but the idea of the scheme is that this person will provide you with advice on the CPD that you need for chartered status, and to help you record it in an appropriate way, and to hopefully sort of guide you through the process of the application. So it's not meant as careers advice or technical advice, but it's just having somebody there to sort of talk to and guide you through the process because they've been through it themselves. We also offer something called a mid-term assessment, and what that means is that about 2 or 3 years after the award that gains you grad stat, we'll contact you and we'll offer you the opportunity to send us details of what you've been doing. It's just a short form to fill in, and then that's reviewed by people on the Professional Affairs Committee, and we'll give you some feedback. So, are you on track? Is there anything else that you could be doing to perhaps sort of broaden your experience? Is there anything slightly short with the CPD, that kind of thing? Could you be recording it in a slightly better way? So it's designed to be sort of constructive feedback, and we'll try and sort of give you an idea of when you might be in a position to actually make an application. And as I've mentioned before, we also offer an online CPD recording system, and the benefit of that is that you can fill all the information in. The fields are all sort of set up standard, and then when you come to make your application, you can just run reports, and it puts it all into a spreadsheet for you, and it's all there. So I've been told it's quite a nice system to use and quite user friendly. So it's there if you want it. There's also a very extensive section on the RSS website devoted to CPD, with examples of other people's profiles, the templates, copies of the CPD policy. So it's probably well worth going and having a little look at that if you're thinking of making an application. And as I've already mentioned, we can support you, members of RSS staff. We're here. That's what our roles are. We're here to help you to complete your application, put together a CPD summary. Any aspects of the process that you're not sure about or you need clarification on, then you're more than welcome to contact us and ask.